with that, let me ask you this.
See, like I just took over. I was like, we're going to do this now.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm ready. Do you want to go first? You said you have a...
No, I'll tail end it.
Okay.
I'll tail end
All right. So, okay. So I want to talk about an episode of the NPR podcast yesterday. And I can pull it up on Spotify on my computer, and we should be able to hear it and everything.
I could pull it up on Spotify on my computer. That way it'll stream.
That is also
So
fun.
actually, yes, I forgot we talked about this before the show. I will do mine first.
Okay.
Because I think that's going to be a good long segment.
Deal.
So my version of Let Me Ask You This today is a three-part. It's a three-part Let Me Ask You This.
Okay.
The first two parts are simple questions, and I would like for you, as best as you can, to give very succinct, simple-ish answers, right?
Okay.
And then the third one will be more expansive. The first question is, who red-pilled you?
Oh.
It doesn't have to be totally definitive, by the way.
No.
We're building into something here.
I'm going to say it was one of these gun dudes, you know?
Oh, okay. Like a Garand Thumb or something like that?
Maybe even like a Lucas Botkin, because that's really what kind of opened the door up to liberty for me, was the gun thing.
Okay. So then, that being said, the next question is, what red-pilled you?
What red-pilled me? Having kids, and with that, recognizing, accepting whatever adjective or noun, whatever that's going to be, that you need to have the ability, you as an individual need to have the ability to make your own choices for your family, particularly around keeping them safe.
Okay. And I think that makes a lot of sense considering
Security.
what you said with
Yeah.
who. Now, the last part of the question essentially is, which one of those questions do you think is more important? Who red-pilled you or what red-pilled you? And why would you think one of those questions is more important?
I think what, because I think most people's what is going to boil down to like a few different things, you know, or it could be easily boiled down. So like mine, like I would put it into a security category, like that's security, you know, and I would think that's a perfectly acceptable way to categorize that. And I think a lot of other people's would be the same way. Whether it's that or like fucking, I don't know, freedom would be like a large category, just choice, you know? So I think probably why would be a more important question.
Okay. And it's exactly my thoughts, right? And this came to me the other day because I've seen this floating around a lot lately, this simple question of who red-pilled you on Twitter and shit like that. And it should be no surprise to you that I've been very interested in like the following of personalities on the internet lately.
Yes.
And this concept of like you get behind somebody because you like their message or whatever and this, that, and the other thing. But then you turn around and find out that, you know, Candace Owens used to run like an SJW doxing site essentially. Or, you know, Jack Murphy used to be into like the weird sexual pegging cuckery world. And now he's a fucking... you know, a manosphere type of dude, or it could be anybody at any time because we don't know these people. So I think it's far more important to ask the question, what red-pilled you versus who red-pilled you.
Yeah.
You can have a gateway person to bring you to, you know, to a different mindset and something like that, but you can't wholly rely on that person to be the cornerstone of why you're believing what you are and you like everything they do, they talk about, this, that, and the other thing. Use them as gateways to the ideas and to the thought processes. But at the end of the day, you have a situation with your family in which you have like a security issue, and that becomes the trigger to be like, I'm all into this whole fucking, you know, firearms thing and the security of myself and my family type of situation. You always have like some kind of catalyst or something in your life that actually affects you to back up your reasoning behind having the values that you develop over time.
Yeah.
And so I was very interested to hear your take on that.
No, and I think that makes a lot of sense because whether it is legitimate moral inconsistency or just people's opinions changing over time, pinning that to one person is not gonna.
It's not a good idea.
It's not as strong of a tether as a why,
Yeah.
And I think we are even like good examples, because if you went back to the very beginning of the show,
Yeah.
and you're like, this
And
guy
I challenge
used to
you all
fucking,
to do that.
Yeah, like this guy used to fucking think no one should even have AR-15s, and now he's talking about fucking fuck the NFA and shit.
Yep.
So it would be easy for someone to claim or semi-legitimately allege that I had moral inconsistency around this issue, but
Well, I think it's because you did.
Right.
Because you weren't, I mean, just to use you as an example, I'm 1,000% there on 1,000 different things, obviously, but like you had a mindset that you had gotten from externalities throughout your life, just inputs of information that you that you just kind of went with.
Right.
And then as time went on, you were like, actually, when I really think about this, when I think about the reality of how it affects my life, totally changes. And Joseph, I didn't want to let that sit for too long. Kevin's here. He says common sense, blatant lies against common sense. And I think that's a big catalyst for what a lot of people got red pilled with over the last couple of years, is
especially during
the
COVID and
blatant fucking lies and stuff we're going to probably talk a lot about. We talk about those types of things every fucking show, to be honest. But that right there, that's a huge what for a lot of people, realizing that the establishment, the powers that be, whatever it may be, have been fucking lying to you for your entire life. And it's harder and harder and harder today to not see the lies for what they are. I think that's a very good example there, Joseph.
Yeah.
All right, so I got this thing pulled up so we can do this now.
Okay, so let me preface this, right? Yep. So I had said on my Instagram yesterday that I was going to go live. Just wasn't able to make that happen with the kids, the notes, all the things. Just didn't have time.
Dad life.
So we didn't eat dinner until after kids go to bed. So I didn't have time to. That's okay. It's common. But because of that, I didn't have time to live stream because I knew it was going to take a little bit of time because I was going to listen to this, stop it, and explain what my issues were. Right. So. This is one of our morning shows. We call them the dailies, right? When Colin and I talk about our morning shows, we call them the dailies. So this is one of our daily shows. Yeah. It's from NPR. It's called Up First. This is their daily podcast. And we've gone through it a few times. We just added, I added a few more to my daily repertoire. So I have one from Punchbowl. I have one from NPR. I have one from the Wall Street Journal. One from the Washington Post now. One from ABC. One from the Daily Wire. And one from Seattle Times or whatever. It's like KUOW.
Yeah.
So
they're one and the same.
We're rocking 7 dailies out here to keep us, that's just the run through of how these stories are going to kind of be gone through today. Yeah.
That's nice because you've added more. I've cut back.
Oh,
I'm down to about 4 now. I think.
Well, when I'm at work, like at least an hour longer than you are in the morning. So I'm there by myself. Usually until around the time that you get there.
Yeah. What better way to start your day when you're showing up to work at like 4:30 than just to start out with like blatant lies and propaganda from the establishment?
Yeah. I have to really decide sometimes.
Like, do I want to do this now, or do I want to put on some YMH for an hour and a half, and then I'll dive into it?
But I like to be into him by the time you get there, because I know you start listening to him in the morning, like before you leave for work. So my real question is whether or not I'm going to listen to him in the car on the way to work,
Oh, yeah.
Like, do I want to really start my day off like this, or do I want to give myself a little bit of a buffer to be jazzed about it, Because as soon as you walk in that building with that crew that's there that early in the morning, it's a real come down. There's a serious drop in attitude just because all of those people are so miserable regardless of how I feel. Because I generally feel pretty good when I get there because I don't see anybody else in the morning. I'm just up. I just kind of get my stuff together and I leave. So there's not a lot that can go fucked up in my morning before I get to work. But you walk in, you're like, I'm down to a 7 now. Like I was at a 9, I'm at a 7 now because this part of the building is just not good.
In a workplace where there are bright, vibrant colors all around us,
everywhere.
The level of grayness in the morning is oppressive. When you for that first couple hours, it's like, wow, bud.
Yeah, some of those people are real fucking miserable. So this is one of the dailies, and yesterday I listened to it and I had enormous issues. Specifically with the language, right? The rhetoric we said before the show, because I know that's been a thing on the show before. The rhetoric. It was the language around this and how extremely divisive almost every segment on this show was. So we're going to listen to it together. We're going to skip through the ads.
Yep.
And we'll kind of stop and we'll talk about it. So
7th, I'm LMAYT 2, Aisha Rock.
And this is Up First, Identity of the GOP in 2023.
it's only like 15 minutes. So
Here we go. Look at the first. I think they go into the commercial actually, right? So the first minute is like a preview of what they're going to do. Here's our segments coming up.
Support for NPR
then
and
they
the
go
font
into a fucking
$200.
ad.
yep.
This message comes from NPR.
In Memphis plan to
Another
release.
ad.
The most of multiple
Okay, so
clouds
this
with
first-
VMware's
this
cross
first segment is about
accelerate
the
innovation and
police
transform
killing
business.
in Memphis and the releasing of the body cam footage, because these all come out early ass in the morning. So this is before
Yeah.
the body cam footage is out, and this is just kind of preface the body cam footage.
A minute and a half into a 15-minute podcast.
Yes.
And to release a video today of the traffic stop that led to the death of Tyree Nichols. Those who've seen it call it appalling, and authorities expect
was.
protests. 5 former police officers were indicted yesterday on charges that include murder and kidnapping. Nichols died January 10th, 3 days after he was beaten.
Hundreds attended a candlelight vigil for Nichols last night in Memphis. They
Just tell
called
me to stop if you
again
need
for
to.
systemic change in the city's police department.
NPR's
the
Debbie
key, man.
Elliott
Bring
was
some
at
drums
that
to
vigil,
protest.
and she joins us now. Good morning, Debbie.
Good morning.
Good
So,
morning, Debbie.
what's it like right now in Memphis?
Well, tense,
Bad.
as you might imagine, right? People are asking
It's not
questions
good.
about just what went wrong here. How did this FedEx worker and father of a 4-year-old end up dead after what police said was a stop for reckless driving? You know, last night's vigil was at a skate park because Tyree Nichols was an avid skateboarder. And
Pause. I did see a wicked, sweet, badass skate video of his the other day. This is a legit skater.
He was tearing it up.
Yeah.
speaker after speaker just seemed really weary to have to be standing up with a bullhorn talking about the death of yet another black man at the hands of law enforcement.
pause right there.
Now,
I like
all
that
of
part,
the
yeah.
Okay, so
These people were very weary.
okay, so I'm not even gonna get into statistics or any of that type of shit, right? Because you can read it either way and argue it either way. The reality of that is, right? Because you can read the statistics either way. The core of this issue, the absolute core of this issue, this police brutality issue, is that the police, the people whose job it is to protect the citizens, are killing them, right? It doesn't matter what color they are. And I'm not trying to do away or cover up or not discuss any other type of societal issues that are involved in this, because there are things and they are worth discussing. What I am saying is the core of this issue that an objective media company, objective journalists should be looking at is that people are being killed by the police. This is an inherent societal issue that needs to be dealt with. This is not productive. To continue to race bait and cut at this like it's a race issue, like it's solely a race issue, is not productive. It doesn't help, and it's just divisive. And that's this whole segment is like this.
Yes.
And that's the issue that I had with this, and why I got so fucking irritated, because this isn't productive. It doesn't make anything better.
No. Joseph brings up a good point there. They have been arrested and charged. So what is their idea of justice that they are not receiving?
Well, this guy's dead is what they're talking about. He was beaten to death essentially by the police officers is what they're talking about.
Yeah. So it's not the fact that justice, if as it were not carried out because they were arrested and charged already. Like we know this already, but it's the fact that the police killed another person.
Right. The police should not be killing people that are not actively trying to kill them. That's the point. If your
Yeah.
life is not in danger, you shouldn't be taking other people's lives, especially if your job is to fucking protect people. You shouldn't be 5 people beating the fuck out of other people. And I don't think, in my personal opinion, I would not feel as though if my son was murdered by the police, that 5 people being in prison would be worth my son's life. It's not equal because my son is dead. And I don't.
And then the major problem you're having along with for this particular like podcast is this is all because he's another black man killed at the hand of police.
And this is not productive. And
Yes.
this is not the core of the issue. This is part of this issue, and it's not productive. This doesn't help anything at all.
Yep.
Ex-officers who were indicted yesterday are also Black, and they face charges including second-degree murder, assault, and kidnapping. That indictment coming from the local district attorney. There remain other investigations going on, both from the state of Tennessee and federal investigators.
What do we know about the video that's going to be released?
We're expecting it sometime this evening. It will cover the span of about 3 minutes. There will be body cams from the police officers, dash cams, and also some surveillance video from the neighborhood where this happened. It's going to show what those who have already seen it describe as a particularly brutal beating, one that the Memphis police chief herself has called heinous, reckless, and a failing of basic humanity. Last night at the vigil, Nicole's mother, Rovon Wells, got a little bit emotional, asking people to remain peaceful when it comes out.
When that tape comes out tomorrow,
I hate when they do this.
it's going to be horrific.
My Lord, my
Put
Lord.
like a family member
I
or
didn't
somebody on
see
there
it.
that's
But from what I hear, it's going to be horrific. But I want each and every one of you to protest in peace. I don't want us burning up our cities, tearing up the streets, because that's not what my son stood for.
Oh, I can't
how you
imagine
know
what it's going to
anybody
be
riding
like
is a
for her
piece
to
of shit.
watch that.
Yeah.
I don't think she will.
cared about shredding up the street.
Residents
Yeah, you
are
went that
calling
one.
for
Okay, so that was
reform.
one. Go back 15 seconds really quick. And now,
Us burning up our cities, tearing up the streets, because that's not what my son stood for.
Oh, I can't imagine what it's going to be like for her to watch that.
I don't think she will.
okay, that was another part. And this is
Residents-
maybe I'm really nitpicking about the words here. I feel like should be saying, well, let's just hope she doesn't have to see that, right? Because there's already a whole side of this issue that is, I'm not even like degrading it or putting it down, but I'm just as an umbrella term, like a conspiracy type that believe, that there's, why are they always putting these videos out on a Friday, when people have nothing to do? Because it opens up the opportunity for writing. Like there's already a whole deal with that. That doesn't help. This type of wording around this issue of this is going to be really tough for her to see that, instead of, well, let's really hope that doesn't happen, or that people listen to what she says, or fucking something like that maybe is going to put a positive potential spin on that. I would think would be, again, is more productive. That's more productive, right? So maybe I'm nitpicking about the vocabulary, because I'm not saying.
Well, it certainly adds bias one way or the other. At that point, you're inflicting some emotional context there that. You just heard her speak. We don't need third parties from some big city in fucking Washington or New York to add emotional context to this to try to sway the viewers or listeners' opinion one way or the other, which is exactly what they're doing.
Right. And Joseph, I don't know what they're advocating for. That's not what I'm saying.
Oh, they talk about, the BLM activist talks about it in this, I think.
Right, and that's their own deal, right?
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that when your child is when anybody is murdered, other people being arrested isn't justice. That's the best thing that our government could potentially provide, because for the state to take somebody else's life also is not just. What I'm saying is that I don't blame anybody who is legitimately saying, because there's a lot of people who are saying it, BLM activists or whatever, that are saying it to gain clout, to try and to change something, to gain, to do whatever, right? For not genuine causes.
It's a grift.
To grift, right?
Yeah, buddy.
What I'm saying is I don't blame anybody who is legitimately saying this is not justice, because a potentially innocent person was murdered by 5 police officers who are paid with our tax dollars to protect them, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The video looks bad indeed. They should be charged to the maximum extent of the law. They should be held to a higher standard because they are supposed to be and have the authority to 100%.
Amen.
100%. And that's
Based-ass take.
precisely what I'm saying. Yeah. Continue.
Continuing.
Calling for reform in the police department after this. What changes do they want to see?
A complete overhaul of the way policing works. Here's Amber Sherman. She's an organizer with Black Lives Matter.
The only way for us to end the injustice that keeps happening and the murders of Black people that keeps happening is to stop using police for traffic enforcement, to stop developing these different task force units, and to stop having these violent interactions with citizens.
So the police chief has said there will be a complete and independent review of specialized units like the one that these officers who are indicted were part of.
So right there, she's talking about, essentially, she does want to abolish at least the
certain aspects of it.
the police force's ability to enforce traffic law.
Yeah.
Which I mean,
And
I'm kind of down for that,
Yeah,
but for totally different reasons.
Right. I'm not here.
Yeah.
I'm not here to argue in favor or against the BLM activists. I think we all have our own opinions about BLM.
Indeed.
We know how these,
Or the police in general.
yeah, we all know how these things break down.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting though, because this was the first time I really heard it, that this was some kind of specialized unit in that.
For street shit, do you know what
I
this,
do not know.
Because that type of stuff happens all the time.
Yeah.
Especially like they were talking about federalized task forces that receive federal dollars to have gang task units, drug task units, like most of those things. That's where a lot of the federal funding comes to police departments as specialized units like that, along with the equipment and whatnot that they're getting.
Yeah. You don't just, the regular cops at that precinct don't just necessarily get a blank check from the feds. It comes with okay, yeah, you can get all this cool shit, but now you got to have a SWAT unit,
And
or now you got to
usually
have this or that. Or
they'll have some type of liaison to the FBI, and they'll also, you'll go through some type of specialized training, generally through a federal facility, through the federal government, so that you can be specialized to deal with these things, and then you have somebody, like I said, a liaison with the federal government that you're consistently working with, so that you're giving them evidence, you're telling them, you're running the cases and shit like that.
Oh, so the feds are getting closer and closer to your actual doorstep.
Yes.
That's nice.
NPR's Debbie Elliott in Memphis. Thank you so much for your reporting.
Now we shift
You're
gears.
welcome.
Overall, not productive. is my
Hard
goal.
no. That was 4.5 minutes. Not even 3.5 minutes.
Not good.
Hey everybody, Colin here from Salt of the Streets. Thank you for watching today's edition of Salty Shorts. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to check out the full episode right here on the Salt of the Streets YouTube channel. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this with all your friends. And you too can become a spreader of the message of liberty. Thanks.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you ready to eat.